What's going on, guys? So today we have a flashlight video. This one is from Acebeam, something a little bit different. I like to broaden the horizon and try all different brands all the time. I've had stuff from Acebeam before, it's been very impressive. The last light, I forget the model, but it was a big old boy and it had a ton of different LED options and stuff. But this is one of their newer ones that's becoming pretty popular. This is their E70. This one specifically is the E70-AL, so this is the aluminum version. There is two other models for this particular light. There's a copper version and there's also a titanium version. But it's kind of cool. It definitely stood out to me because of the design. There's like an outer tube with tons and tons of milling and cutouts, excuse me. But then like the battery tube is blue underneath. It just has a really good look to it. So fascinating light. These sell, there's quite a range here. I've seen them as low as 65 bucks, I think from Battery Junction, and then all the way up to 100 bucks. So it really just depends on where you get this, but I'm gonna have to average it out and say it's about an $80 flashlight. This is pumping out a claimed 4,600 lumens on turbo, which it's very possible. You know, it's hard to verify, you know, outputs and stuff. All you can really do is compare it to other flashlights. It's very bright. Is it 4,600 lumens bright? I don't know. I have no way of actually testing that, but I can just tell you it's super bright. This does come with a pocket clip, which is removable. In this case, these are screwed on. Okay, so you have to just take those screws off if you want to remove the clip. Again, it's kind of like an inner body and outer body, which gives it a really interesting look. All right, you see their website is on the bottom of the light. So if you want to check out some of those stuff or look at stats and tech specs on things, you can certainly do so. You can see the business end here. This one has a XHP 70.2 LED, very heavily stippled reflector in there. So big old LED putting out all that light. Do have a crenulated bezel here. It's kind of low profile. It's not really, you know, for striking and stuff so much as it is if you keep your light on the table or something, it'll allow some of that to escape so you can see that it's on, so you don't lose all your battery power. All right, and of course this does get hot after a while, so they have a little logo up there so you don't forget it. But let's take a look real quick at the packaging. Gives you all the information. It is interesting, this comes in two different colorations, but instead of putting like, you know, warm white, cool white, they actually have the actual Kelvin. All right, so this one is in the 6,000 Kelvin scale, and this one's 5,000. Okay, so you can look at a Kelvin chart and get an idea of the exact light coloration that's coming out of the LED, which is pretty cool. All right, had a little tab in there when I first got it. Before I started testing it, it has a little pouch, which is very nice, okay, in case you want to store it away without getting scratched. We have a wrist lanyard. We have the charging cable. Now you notice there's a second little port there for your USB, which is kind of cool, and I can only assume that that is so that when you're using a USB port on like your computer or wherever you're charging this, that you still have an open plug to charge something else. That's my guess. Maybe you guys can tell me if I'm right there or not. But then we also have some spare O-rings, which is always important. A lot of times people overlook this. If you have a flashlight, you know, for an extended period of time, you do want to check those O-rings. Make sure that they're, you know, properly lubed up and that they're not, you know, getting old and brittle and tearing and stuff, because you don't want your light to obviously take on any kind of water. And then of course we just have our paperwork here. All right, so you can pause the screen there. Let me bring this up closer for you. You can pause it there if you want to see the outputs and run times. So as far as operating this light, it's a little bit different from some other flashlights. A single press does nothing. That is in case it gets bumped, it does not accidentally turn on. All right, you need a quick double press to turn that on. All right, once it's on, push and hold. It'll cycle through some of those modes: low, mid to high, right? And if you double click again when it's on high, then it goes to that turbo mode, okay, which is pumping out the full 4,600 lumens. It's actually hot because it's pushing out a lot of light. All right, when it's off, you can push and hold, long hold, for the moonlight mode. All right, which is nice. So that gives obviously your longest run time. Strobe mode is 3 quick presses from off. So 1, 2, 3, we have strobe. That is pretty much it. So if we remove the head here, take a look inside at our battery source. 5100 milliamp hour, 21700. All right, so the size is 21700. It's a fairly large battery. This also is marked that it gets hot. But you can see kind of the inner tube here, the battery tube, which goes down, is that blue. And then we basically have like an extra shell, aluminum shell around the outside. Now when using the light, it is very, very bright. It is very useful. Oftentimes I won't use some of those medium modes. I will use the moonlight mode just to see how much light that's coming out. Sometimes I like turning on the strobe as well just to see how it's pulsing. This seems to be the same wavelength. I do like flashlights that transfer between like a really, really fast strobe to like a kind of slow strobe and back and forth. Just makes the eyes harder to adjust to that. But yeah, I mean, as far as usability, it's totally fine. The single click for safety, I guess, so it doesn't accidentally turn on. That's something I keep forgetting when using this light. So I just go to click it on, I'm like, oh, what's going on? But then I realize, all right, I gotta double click. It does have mode memory. All right, so let's say you want to keep it in this low mode, shut it off, double click, it goes back to that. It's not the easiest flashlight in that, like, there's so many flashlights that I have now are just a double click and it goes right to turbo, where this is a double click and then another double click. It's not a big deal. Every flashlight you use, you have to kind of change the way you think, because especially if you're like me and use so many different lights, some of them have different UIs, and sometimes it's just hard to remember what's what. But the longer you carry it, the more you get used to stuff like that. Overall, its size is not terrible for EDC, but it's definitely going to be difficult for some people. It's definitely larger for the pocket. Storing it in a bag, you don't want to get scratched up. Obviously, you can use the pouch that comes with that, but there is no actual belt sheath or anything. All right, you have the pocket clip, which would be fine for a lot of people. If you carry tons of gear, the light does seem a little big, for pocket carry. But you can always use a pocket clip, carry this on the inside of the waistband, whether you have just the clip, through your belt or belt loop or something, or if you actually have the body of the light through your pants, if you happen to have a little extra room in between your pant size and your body, you could stick that in there and have the clip, hold it. There's lots of different ways you can obviously carry it, but I think most people would probably just put it in the pocket with the pocket clip as if you would, a pocket knife or something. And for some people, it's totally fine. For other people, it's a little chunky. For me, pocket lights, I tend to go with, smaller single A battery lights, So any like 18650, or in this case, the 21700, they tend to just be bigger lights, but that's total preference. But yeah, I mean, I don't see this as like a great EDC light just because of its size. I also don't think that in everyday life you need all that power. I mean, really is a ton of light. The only downside I would say to this light for me was remembering how the UI works. Doing that double click to turn on, waiting a second, and then double click to put it into turbo. Because more times than not, when I'm using a flashlight, I want to use all the light, right? That's why we spend extra money on flashlights that are super bright. But I end up doing some of the strobe. You know what I mean? I do kind of like the 2 clicks and then click for the turbo and just kind of mess it up a little bit. So it just gets, getting used to, I suppose. I use so many different lights. Maybe I'm a unique example where I can't remember exactly how all the lights work because I'm using so many different lights. Clearly, an average person, if you just bought this flashlight, you'd get used to it fairly quickly. So it's not really a critique. I do like the fact that if you actually bump that, it's not going to turn on. You do need a quick 2 to turn it on, but if it does go on and it's resting down somewhere, you're probably gonna be able to see that. And at the same time, this does tail stand very nicely, okay, because it has a very flat base and a recessed button here. It's very nice for tail standing, and I talked about that. I really do appreciate that function as far as an emergency light or something. So yeah, I mean, it's really cool. It's just a different option. Sometimes you hear the same brands over and over again. I love branching out. I love trying different stuff, and this is just one of Acebeam's recent offerings. But of course, they have tons and tons of light. They have a monster one that's like 40,000 lumens or something. Love to get my hands on one of them in the future. We'll see. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have an awesome day, and I'll see you tomorrow with a brand new video. Take care.